Welcome everyone. This channel is dedicated mainly to forgotten history of the world. You will find content on both popular and niche topics. There are also references to conspiracy theories, the latest events, and spiritual and esoteric subjects. In the last 10 years, during my travels around the world, I met a lot of people, and many of you encouraged me to start sharing this knowledge widely. Thank you so much for your support on all levels. After literally 20 years of research, I have visited 40 countries and met spiritual leaders of different religions, history, and belief systems. I've heard many local legends and myths and stories, and all of them were connected to esoteric experiences. Right, this is gonna be a series of movies or my talks about an event which supposed to happen 2024 AD, so in next 3.5 years. If this is true or not, we will see soon. But we have lots of evidence in ancient texts and chronicles from all around the world, which are talking about a cyclic reset. Cyclic reset, it's there is a lot of information about it, but I want to pick up the most famous one or most known one, which is the Mesoamerican object called the Sunstone. So probably if you watch this channel, you already know the Sunstone was found on 17 December 1790 at El Zocalo in Mexico City in Mexico. So that was proper research done on this one over 200 years. But I'm referring here to two Polish researchers and historians. One of them named Chomsky, who in 80s wrote a book about actually the sunstone and the cycles which are there. For many other people, there are like calendar. They call it Aztec calendar or Aztec clock or sun clock. I do not agree with this, and actually there is a little bit of truth, because it's not a calendar, it's not a clock, it's just a disk with information which was left probably around 13,500 years ago. I will get there. So the first researcher, Chomsky, he found it that right in the middle, we have in the middle of the stone, we have 4 small cycles. And then the 4 cycles makes one big cycle. And the big cycle we are in now is the 5th cycle. So let's calculate it. He as well calculated that the cycles are 13 times by 52 years, which equals 676 years. Now, the information he found on the disk, it was about a falling sun, and then on the end of the 4th cycle, so the full big cycle. It was 676 years by 4, which gives us 2,704 years. So this is the big cycle. I call it the big cycle. So the small cycle, end of each small cycle has got some kind of distortion, some kind of actual damages happen to the planet. Well, the most popular thinking, it's the falling sun, the falling sun, and then the new sun coming up later on after a few years. What is the falling sun? We have a very good actually comparison with not so far ago, Chelyabinsk meteorite, which happened on 15 February 2013. Well, we have 2020, so actually 7 years ago already. Yeah. But when it exploded over the ground, it was the effect of falling sun. It was like big bang with a huge aura of light. So this probably, or could be taken by the locals at that time, the Aztecs, as the effect of falling sun. We're not sure, but it's very, very probable. Now, if we have this 5 cycles, so what happened 13,500 years ago? Well, there are many, many theories about this around the world. But for certain, there was an ice age. So, since the ice age, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, now the 5th cycle. Okay, now to understand why it comes to 676 years, we need to explain you a little bit about the Earth movement. Well, this is the second Polish historian and researcher, which is his name is Artur Lalak, and in his theory, which he's writing now 2 books, 700 pages each. It's a lot of reading, but it's only in Polish. Maybe we'll do it in English. Maybe we'll see. And the Earth doesn't move at the same plane or the orbit as other planets. He actually, from his observation over 10 years and literally translating the ancient texts and the chronicles to his understanding of how it all was done before, it moves in a kind of, a skew. So it's not like the other planets going flat, let's say horizontal. It goes that way, and then goes that way, and then goes that way, and then goes that way. So it goes 12 times in the skew directions. That's why we have this opportunity every year to see the meteor shower on the sky. Once it's the January, February, and the second one is around August, maybe a little bit of September as well, because the trajectory is actually cutting the other trajectory of the planets and the asteroid belt twice a year. Okay, so what's happening? How long does it take for us to go through it? This is not mostly about this. It's more like this is precise schedule of 676 years, because there is in ancient text, obviously we don't know, it's not confirmed, but NASA or ESA or anything, any other government agencies, space agencies or astrological agencies, but there is something, let's call it celestial object, which is passing the sun on its orbit every 52 years. So every 52 years it comes to the moment when it passes the asteroid belt. Yeah, we don't know what is it. The NASA, it's could be anything, but the NASA is calling it the planet Eris. Well, let's hope soon we're gonna find out, because we have better equipment. But in ancient, chronicles from all around the world, there was a different names for, we know the story of Anunnaki, and so the planet called Nibiru, and we know other stories about the same, probably the same object, which is causing a lot of troubles when we pass it. Why now? Why every 676 years? It's actually quite simple. It takes 52 years around the sun to orbit it, but 12 times it goes lower and lower and higher. But the 13th time, the last time, the Earth is going through the asteroid belt, actual original orbit of this planet. I want to say, I don't believe this is a planet we're living on. It used to be a planet. This is just a kind of maybe the biggest piece, maybe a part of one of the biggest pieces, which left over from the destruction of original Earth. Original Earth, through ancient chronicles, actually, and belief system legends, was again called many different names. It was called Gaia, it was called Tiamat, or different ones. I like the name the Tiamat, or whatever Americans will say, Tiamat, but for me, that's the best name I can come with, is Tiamat. So let's call it Tiamat, and the story is the same. Something hit the planet exploded into the pieces, and we have a missing, space fill up with the asteroid belt. That's where the original planet was. So every 676 years we're passing again, or the 13th cycle, through the asteroid belt, and the same time it's that, let's call it celestial object, all the planet we don't know, is passing by as well. So what we can expect at the time, what is written in all the ancient texts, that we have a lot of distortions on the planet, and usually it's end up with the population of about 90%. So how does it work with 2024? That's a very interesting story. Just give me 2 secs. Let's first now come back to the last one. So what happened if we calculate 2024, and we deduct 676 years, we ended up in the year 1348. And between 3045 and 3048, something big happened in Europe, because that's where we have the information. We have the information from China as well, and a little bit from Middle East. And let's say that's all what we can gather. And neither I studied archaeology, but I'm not academic. Neither Artur Lalak or other researchers, we have access to all of the important ancient texts and chronicles. Most of them are hidden in a Vatican library, or in, I believe, in Vienna. There is a huge library and kind of museum now, but to get access there, you need to be known as academic, and probably you can't take all the information as well out as usual in this world. Okay, let's come back to the point. So, in many medieval books, you can about Italy. We can find like a note that the bridge in Florence, which is a city in Italy, the stone bridge, 1,000 years old bridge, was destroyed, and in 348 it was rebuilt. Now, if we look to the famous Wikipedia, which is the best or the worst library we can find, it says 1345. So anything between this time, the bridge was rebuilt. Now, what happened before the bridge was rebuilt, and what caused the bridge to collapse? That's a different story. This is actually a very funny story, because it's called by the historians and archaeologists and other scientists a Black Death, the plague. I never thought that the bacteria can destroy buildings or stone bridges or other constructions, but they had the help of rats. Rats are very important. They can eat the stone. Really? I don't think so. So there was this French academic, I forgot his name now, but he came with this theory of the virus and rats and the squirrels in the forest, because the squirrels in the forest had a plague, and that's why they caused the fires in the forest. I don't get it. Okay, anyway. So after 35 years of research, this French guy just pulled out of it. He just decided everything, I'm writing in it doesn't make sense. Why? Well, that's very interesting. When we had this nuclear explosion in nuclear plant in Chernobyl on the 26th of April 1986 in Ukraine, of course, everyone knows where Chernobyl is. Ukraine, next to Poland. So where I live now in Poland is next to me. I actually was part of it because the cloud was coming to Poland, and we were forced to go. I was at school, in a primary school. I was forced to go to the doctors and drink, yod, things like that. Yeah, but I'm still right. No cancer. And actually, every friend of mine I know, same. We've been pretty safe in the central Poland. Anyway, so the firefighters went there into the action, and after the first response team, I don't know how many of them was, but I know what happened to them. So they had exactly the same kind of illness, the same like in the plague. Wow, that's a big difference. Now, what happened to them? They have a nail loss, they had a hair loss, they have asexuality, they had very high mortality in the first 48 hours. They had a high mortality in the first week, and they had a blindness. So after this happened, and all this news came to this French researcher, academic, he pulled out of his theory. He said, I'm done. This doesn't make sense. But what happened? His books are still books which says there was a plague, there was a Black Death, there was rats and squirrels. It's still on. So the education system wants us to believe there was some virus, very dangerous virus, which actually destroys buildings. Yeah, stone buildings. Yeah, of course. And it leaves the body of the color of the black or yellow, which is typical causes for the reaction, radioactive reaction. And in the medieval chronicles, we can find that in Rome, for example, that was the body were laying on the street for months, because no one was brave enough to go and touch them. They were emanating of some kind of light in the dark. So written there. Now, same time when the plague came, the capital, Rome, was moved to Prague. Probably many of you don't know, but the Prague was the capital of Roman Empire for a while. Funny thing about Prague is that Prague is built on two different levels. So the capital, when it was moved, it was built on the top layer. So what about the lower part? Something filled up, build the hill up. Something cover up the old Prague. We'll get there. Why they moved it? Because it was not possible for many years to live in Rome. And that's written everywhere. That's a common thing. You can Google it, you can find it. It's so easy. Let's stop here. And one of other hypotheses of Arthur's is that in that time, in 1348, there was a shift in different chronologies by different scribes. Obviously, because if 90% of population is dying, and we have earthquakes, and we have tsunamis, we have probably foreign meteorites, we don't know, because the truth is hidden, but we have the pieces so we can put them together. Actually, there's more evidence from 4,000 or 6,000 years ago than we have from last 700 years. Well, because it's very well hidden by the so-called elites, rulers. And yeah, so Prague, by the way, Prague is in Czechia. Czechia is next to Poland, south. It's in Europe, a small country. Our friends. So if we look again at another cycle, one before 676 years, we will end up a cataclysm around 672 AD. Yes, but the same cataclysm, which is supposed to happen around that time, it's told us that it happened 520 AD. And it was a Justinian plague. Wow, same plague again. Which one was first? Obviously that which was older, but it's a plague. Even also Orosius. Orosius was a scribe, a priest, a Spanish, who lived in the Roman Empire. He loved the Roman Empire. In his chronicles, he described something. He lived between 4th and 5th century, according to Wikipedia. So, according to the modern history. What happened at the time, there was a huge amount of so-called Slavic culture coming down to Italy, running away from some disaster, a huge disaster. Not all of them. That part of them, they've been hiding in kind of caves, places like bunkers. Yeah? We're gonna talk about that in a second. So, what happened at the time? It all moved underground or ran away south. Yeah, we have plenty of evidence, mostly in Russia, but difficult to do. Experiments or expeditions if you don't have a lot of money, or you're not academic and you don't say what they want. You know how it works. I've never been in Russia. I'd love to go, but maybe soon. We'll see. But there's plenty of evidence there because I'm in contact with Russian academics actually, and few friends, researchers, and we exchange the information. And it's just like it would be lovely to go there and spend a year or two. But we'll see. So Orosius is actually describing that a mass of thousands of 10,000 of people, including grandparents, including animals, including kids, including everything they had, they took down with them and came to Rome and asked to have a little bit of land so they can settle, they can live off. And then after everything will calm down where they came from. And the Romans were actually, yeah, why not? But you need to give up your weapons first, you know. And 90%, or maybe 85% of these people who came to Romans gave up the weapons. So, what happened to these people? The Roman soldiers got the order to kill them all, completely, everyone. And it was a massacre. And Orosius, so in love with Rome, with the power, with all the idea of democracy, he's writing actually in his chronicles saying, this is the only time I'm not proud of Rome and my people, because they were killing the Slavic, refugees, which came to ask for help. There was only one. I think it was Vandals. We're gonna talk about that in different series. So there was only one who never gave up the weapons, and they forced through. They actually won. They won battle by battle. You have nothing left behind you. Everything you have is you now, and what you have, on you. So you have no place to go back. So what you do? You force. You go forward. You make a space. You win. And that is a very famous battle and very famous attack, as it says in the Chronicles. It's attack of the Slavic cultures, but we'll talk about it. Okay, let's leave it. Now, what is very, very interesting for me is then with this fake, maybe, maybe not fake. 2020 year, we used to have a different idea about how we live, what year is it. We used to use a lunar calendar. All the ancient civilizations, I checked, they were using lunar calendar until, something happened. So it's called today, it's called Coptic calendar or Gregorian or Georgian, calendar. So comparing to this, we living now in 1736 AD. So this is the year now, 1736. We never reached 2000. Not yet. But it doesn't matter. Okay, the difference between 2020 and 1736, that's matter, because it's 284 years. There is many theories, especially recently. Well, I really appreciate these people who dig deep. With saying there is a 300 years missing, or there is 600 years missing, or there is 1,000 even years missing. In our history, it was taken away and it was faked. Well, looking at the evidence I have, I more agree with Arthur Lalak that it's 284 years missing, so around 300. And this is the space where all this movement of dates and events were happening. Actually, it was the same events, but the different civilizations, the different countries, the different nations were describing it differently with the years because of the mix mash, what happened. Actually, imagine that there is like 90% of population dying and you have a great knowledge, and there is another around 700 years past, and they have they have something happening, and again there is a loss of 90% of population. So the knowledge, the dates, everything is lost. They starting from the beginning, from the scratch, whatever they could save. Remember, there was no hard drives, computers, so they couldn't actually put the data, keep them in the pocket like in the phone now, So, yeah, that's the difference. And that will be explained as well in the series. Okay, so what really made the day for me? In Indian ancient Vedics, actual yogi, there is a cyclic reset, but every 1200 years, so 1200 years. It's different than 676. But living in our time, in the, I would say even humans, as Homo sapiens, we never passed the time. Because it was all changed by so-called the War of Gods. So this is the old history. The War of Gods is in many cultures around the world, and we're gonna talk about this. I love the story of War of Gods when I was in Australia, and one Aborigine, very educated person, a cricketer, actually, lovely time together. He actually told me a few stories about the belief system. So, okay, but that's for another time. This is just a short video to introduce myself and to introduce what we're gonna talk about. So that gives us opportunity to see the many cultures, the stories. They repeats itself and describes the Earth, that the Earth shifted in orbit or tilted in the skew, and this caused the planet to change its speed and never came back to the same position. So full Earth cycle around the Sun at that time was 360 days, and we know it. These days everyone knows it. And the Moon cycle around the Earth was 30 days. So 12 months, 12 times by 30 days gives us 360 days a year. Yeah, so one full cycle. So today we have 365, and in many myths and legends there are added 5 by different gods to do this, to save this, to say we'll go through this. So that's important. Then before the War of the Gods, we had different cycle because we were a planet. After the War of the Gods, we are kind of asteroids or planetoid or whatever you call it. A rubbish. It's still beautiful, but it's not what it was before. Yeah. Let's move on. Now, what really was bothering Arthur Lalac was the date, if he was right, 2024 or not. But the NASA mission, Pioneer 11 and Pioneer 10 in 11, it became a little bit problematic. 1972 and 1973, one by one, so 10, 11, there was 2 probes sent to the asteroid belt. Okay, the first one, as we know, it was sent to, I think, Jupiter. The second, Jupiter and Saturn. Yeah, but the main course of sending this was to asteroid belt. On the board of the Pioneers, there was so-called Pioneer plaques. The Pioneer plaques are a pair of gold, I'm reading now, a pair of gold anodized aluminum plaques that were placed on board in 1972 and 1973 on Pioneer 10 and 11 spacecraft, featuring a pictorial message about us humans with our DNA and other stuff. In case these 2 probes will be intercepted by intelligent extraterrestrial life. Wow. 1972 and 1973. So one probe was sent when this celestial object, the planet or something, it's approaching the asteroid belt, and the other one was sent when it comes out of it. So thanks to this really, really good calculations made by NASA, the journey of this object will take 1 year through asteroid belt. Wow. So they knew it already in 1972. No, they must knew it before that something is coming. Now, if you take, this is amazing, if you count from 1348, so 1348, yeah, and you add 52 years, yeah, keep adding, then you will end up after 12 cycles in 1972. So when the object, the planet, is approaching the asteroid belt, a year later, 72, when it's coming out and making the own cycle, going away, far away from Earth. So 1972 plus 52, it gives us 2024. That's why me and Arthur and many other researchers or people here in Poland, because it's something new, something fresh. Arthur just brought this information to the nation. We actually believe that something could happen 2024, but that could be as well a little bit movement. This NASA mission is the main problem. Why they send it exactly 1972? And they know 2024 something will happen. We'll get there. So, where are we? We're here. In Arthur's theory, there was a shift. This shift in the chronicles. And it caused us a 40 years gap. So, plus minus 20 years each way. So let's say It could happen 24, well, 20. So everything could happen between 2020 and 2044. But as I said before, the NASA mission is actually bringing it more likely to, next 4 years, 3.5. Yeah. Strange, isn't it? Yeah. So they know something. And then we're going to come now to that very important thing. One more very, very funny thing. The history of this event, it's as well very well hidden and given to us in tarot cards or the playing cards. You have games and things, and you have the story of the word, of the one big cycle and 4 small cycles. Well, which is very interesting. Now, if you look at the cards, you have 4 colors, so 4 different cycles. You have 4 colors, so 4 cycles. We have 13 cards each color. Yeah, so 13 rounds. Why we call it with the playing 13 rounds? We're going around. Yeah. So we have the 13 rounds, and it's 52 cards per deck. No jokers, just normal. 52 cards. Again, 13 by 52, 676 by 4, 2,704. That's one big cycle. Interesting. So what's happening today? How the ancient past, can connect to our near future? Well, I could talk about that. There's so many proofs, but this is, as I said, this is the beginning. I want to not more than 45 minutes this video, so I have 8 minutes left. France, Germany, Japan are giving nuclear power plants until year 2022. That's the official documentation. But the documentation was extended as well in the worst scenario to 2024. So why are they giving up this? Because it's dangerous. Because if something will hit, or the earthquake, or the meteorite, or anything, or tsunami, or volcano eruption, it will cause enormous explosions and probably kill or destroy the planet. Anyway, this is one of these points that there are the elites, the governments are preparing to 2024. Now, recently we have so many droughts around the world, so many. But the most intensive period happened about last 3 years. So we are in the 4th year now. We have rivers, lakes, and all disappearing, and Antarctica is cracking and melting, and we have more and more volcanic eruptions activity, earthquakes. Recently, this is recording on the 23rd of April 2020. And if you look back 6 months, how many earthquakes happened? How many volcanic eruptions? Not big ones, but they were awake. This is like living being. This planet, if it's a planet, we'll see. So we have this high temperature rising. Hot summers, and all around the globe, and it is called the climate change. Yes, it is climate change. I agree, but it's not made by human. Well, maybe 1%. 1% can't change the world. Not at all. But this is definitely happening because end of the cycle. If we are right, 2024 is the end of the cycle, and something will happen. So, in the ancient text, it says, or chronicles, it says that it was about 7 years of strange thing happening to the planet. Chinese are very good to write these things. 7 years of drought, 7 years of hot weathers. There were comets passing by at the same time, and other interesting things. So let's move. Now, if the elites and the governments, I know about it. Obviously, we know they're working together. They started building bunkers. And we know there's many bunkers around the world, isn't it? Especially in the United States. Great bunkers. Switzerland, Germany, Sweden. Well, we could talk about more and more and more. Even in Poland we have bunkers for rich people. Well, the rich people have bunkers for themselves. They bought even whole complex of the caves, ancient caves, which we know was an ancient bunkers. And how we know it? Persian mythology. Persian mythology is the only mythology I know which wasn't changed. It's original from the beginning to the end. It never was changed, never was rewritten. And it talks about same, cataclysm, and where the people were running off, they were hiding in a so-called var. This is the ancient word, Persian word, var. And var means the ark. Yeah. But what means the ark? Yeah, I found explanation in a dictionary. The arc, countable, known in geometry. An arc is a part of the line that forms the outside of the circle. So it forms the outside of the circle. So this is something outside, which empty space in the middle. So you can hide. You can put anything inside. You can put yourself inside. So the ark is the var. The var, it means the bunker. Right. Modernization of the Swedish bunkers recently, filling up with food and other stuff, supplies for next 10 years. Next 10 years, yeah? Now. Okay. And all around in Poland, the countries, we have the same in all the European countries. Now, looking at the perspective we're living at the moment now, it's a global lockdown for a people. Yeah? The reason the TV and the government says, everyone knows, I don't want to use that word because I want this video to go viral, and I don't want to be taken away from the YouTube, especially it's my first one. So let's go with a little bit of silence about few words. I don't want to, the algorithm of YouTube doesn't like this word, so I'm not gonna use them, but you know what I mean. So we have lots of videos from all around the world showing empty hospitals. Empty hospitals, but every hospital is looking more like filled hospitals than the hospitals for that reason we have in TV and lockdown now. It's very interesting. It's a completely different equipment. I'm not an expert, but I'm not an idiot. I like to check things, especially I have many friends, doctors, and asking. They said, yeah, there's no equipment for treating anything which happening now, but they're really well prepared for different occasions. Yes. Now we have the Comet Atlas, which will pass in the 23rd in 6 days. Yeah, the famous Comet Atlas, which is supposed to be the greatest in our history, show told by many astronomers. It's falling apart. It's actually already fallen, and it's supposed to be 2, then later 5. Now I don't know how many. I stopped reading this because it's boring. So it's fallen and it's dimming down. So it's not gonna happen. Anyway, it's gonna pass about 500,000 miles away from Earth. Yes, but that was before it fell into the pieces, isn't it? Well, logically thinking, it lost the mass, so it lost the speed. It lost the speed, it lost the trajectory. So we don't know. It's gonna pass the Earth, maybe not. We'll see. Yeah, let's leave it. Another near-Earth object is passing by our planet less than the distance between here and the Moon. I'm not saying now, but the biggest distance with the Moon. On 28th of April. Wow, such a coincidence. And it's a very big asteroid. Supposedly, it's gonna pass safely. That's what say NASA. and ESA. Now, recently happened, I think it was a week ago, maybe a little bit longer, that a small asteroid hit the Nigerian land, leaving a crater of 20-meter radius. There was a car or truck burning and stuff and things like this, and they've heard this big bang, the effect of the falling sun, bang, hit the ground. They thought it was a bomb. Something was bomb, but yeah, just one. Well, why is just one? Some bombing is using lots of bombs, not just one. So pretty sure, looking even at the photos online, if you can still find it, you will see that actually it was a kind of meteor, and it's actually even confirmed by one of the scientists there. Anyway, let's move on. So we have this NATO exercise in Europe, with 30,000 US soldiers, and heavy equipment to fight or to defend the 2020. So they come here to defend us in Europe. Thank you, soldiers, to defend us against the thing, which is in TV now. Yeah, really? I don't think so. We have army streets on the streets, we have police on the street in Europe, which is completely, weaponized, and to be here. They have guns, they have heavy machine guns. The police in Poland ordered heavy machine guns. For what? Shooting to, I don't know, bacteria? Very strange. So, that's interesting. I have my little schedule of what I'm going to talk about with you guys here. This is really interesting. Now, we're going to movies. Hollywood, NASA, same thing. I don't want to discredit anyone, but it's registered to this one thing, one to each other. So, and where is all this registered? It's registered to CIA. So we're supposed to know what is going on. But I love, Hollywood movies, especially the sci-fi and fantasy, because they're giving us a lot of informations. What is going to happen, what they planned, or what they know. You just need to be careful how you watch it. Or watch it a few times, make your notes, and then you will find. Sometimes they give in dates, lots of dates. Yeah, like this one. There was a beautiful movie. I say was because there was only trailer online, and it was removed. The title was Greenland 2020. 20. What means 2020? It means this year. What was that trailer or the movie about? It was about a comet, a blue, like the Atlas, passing by the Earth, and suddenly broke into two pieces. And then the pieces fallen on the ground and made a havoc. The movie was removed about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, maximum, on the behalf of the studio, because they don't want to spread more fear. Yes, with what? With global lockdown in the houses, with army on the streets, with heavy equipment in Europe, with the hospitals ready more for disaster, which is this kind of falling stars things, than micro bacteria. Yes, very interesting. Now, since the epidemic happened, we have this beautiful TV news. I love mass media because they are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. I don't know, these people are stupid or they just all work for the elites. Well, maybe both. We'll see. Now, the first headline news which caught my attention was the WHO. Yeah. The title was WHO will need $676 billion, obviously, to fight VID, yeah, VID-19. And in Poland, the first response, Polish government response, was, we have done 676 tests, said Prime Minister. Then a few days later, same Prime Minister said, oh, we have done 2024 tests. Wow. Then the media in Germany and Poland, they said that it was a train with infected woman, obviously with that bacteria. And the number of the train was 676.33. Yes, we've checked it. With the researcher, there was no such a number on this train. There was a completely different number. It's easy to check. Now UK. Let's say the bacteria in UK, the title, big rise in UK, VID-19 cases up by 676 to 2,626. Now, USA, California Governor Gavin Newsom admitted the start of operation had been slow, with just 676 people taken ashore by early Tuesday afternoon from roughly 2,400 passengers. Article about cruise ship in California. Yeah. Now, Japan. The VID-19 infections in Japan rise to 676 people. Why? So many times 676 number publicly announced. I leave this question to you guys. Now, President Trump, President of the United States, in one of his speech, he actually said, he compared the pandemic to asteroid disaster, and strangely enough, a Polish Prime Minister did exactly the same. Wow. Actually, what Polish Prime Minister said, I can explain you. He said, you can't be prepared for a collapse or fallen asteroid like to this bacteria we have now. Something like this. I didn't write it. I'm just making, I'm just translating from the head. I don't remember exactly his words, but that was like, you can't be prepared. Wow. Actually, they are. They are bunkers. Anyway. So, if you look carefully into all this headline news from the beginning of the pandemic, you can actually find probably more numbers 676 or 24 or 2024. But for me that's enough research. So I know they know, and I know NASA sent the probe, so they know because it's happening in a couple of years. And another thing is very important. It's the quickly forced martial law passed around the globe in every country. Wow. The martial law, which gives the government unlimited powers, no responsibilities, nothing. When you give the martial law to the public, there's only two reasons. When it's a disaster, national, global, or there's a war. So one of two, they know what they're doing. Anyway, thank you for watching. In next video, I'm going to talk about my research in, I call it Dragon Valley of the Pyramids in Visoko in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where are the proofs of the cyclic cataclysm. And not only this, I found many interesting things there, and very interesting stuff. And okay, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like it, and leave nice comment. If you want to support this channel and my work, you can make donation. All details are in the description box below. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.